What is good, YouTube? Happy holidays, happy Thanksgiving to all y'all, even though I'm late on it. But I'm back. We're going to talk about the rundown and give y'all the rundown of every team in the league. And it's been a crazy year. Basketball got off to a decent start. Has hit a little bit of a rough patch right now. Some games have been blowouts and just plain unwatchable. A lot of crazy and stupid stuff happening. A lot of stuff that's unnecessary. A lot of stuff is just comedic when it comes to stupidity. But games are still being played. Players are still being injured. Teams are starting to find their forms. Rookies are starting to fall off or come to what they need to be. And teams are starting to see and show what they are when they're healthy. And I can just give you all the rundown of what I'm feeling on these teams. Brooklyn Nets, as we always start off in the East, they're 14-6. This team is the number one team in the East. We've seen the same thing last year. This team has a lot of talent. And you got good, bad, and great teams in the league, and they have been beaten up on a variety of them, mostly the good to the bad. And they have amassed a pretty solid record. You consider no Kyrie, older guys, a lot of roster and lineup changes the last couple months and even now. And to have a guy that's in the MVP conversation in Kevin Durant. And Harden just hasn't looked the same or that good. He has looked a little bit better lately, but still not a superstar. Harden looks like an all-star. Kevin Durant still looks like Kevin Durant. Still has been efficient, still has took over, but it's still lacking. They don't look as dominant offensively as they looked last year, and they don't look great defensively like we seen last year. But when you're playing a mixture of good, bad, and ugly, you have a chance to beat those teams and give you a chance to win. And that's all that really matters in this league. And that's why we see the Brooklyn Nets at the top of the East. The Miami Heat, we knew they'd be good. It's not really a surprise that they're 13-7. You probably think that they'd be a little bit better, but they have had the same problems. Guys been in and out the lineup. Guys have been stepping up. You gotta give a shout out to Tyler Hero, who was questioned and became solid and became one of the best guys off the bench, if not the best. So far, Jimmy Butler has been one of the best two-way players. Bam hasn't took that significant leap offensively, but has been solid defensively. Kyle Lowry has fit decently, hasn't really played exceptionally well, but you don't really need him to at this point. And this team still lacks depth, but a lot of guys just know their game, know their role, know how to play together, and that's been a big reason why they've been successful this year. But like I said, I'm not really surprised because I had them finishing in the top four anyway. So seeing them second right now is not a surprise because they brought back a lot of their main core that made them successful the last three seasons and just switched up some things and lost a little depth. But Tyler Hero has had a more significant role, has been better in his role, and that's been a big difference for that bench because he's just so good off of it. The Wizards have been a shocker. People thought they'd be at the bottom or in the middle. They have been at the top of the East for a couple weeks now. They've been exposed the last couple games, but you just got to give this team credit. They have a lot of guys that got chips on their shoulder, want to prove themselves, really feel that they can play, and they find a way to do it together. This team has been better defensively than we thought. We knew that they had a lot of versatility. We knew that they had the ability to go small, ability to go mobile, the ability to go with space. And they've just been taking advantage of it. Spencer Dinwiddie has looked solid. Bradley Beal hasn't looked like his dominant self, but he has still been a decent player so far. Not really going crazy or not really having the season that we thought that he had would have coming into the season, but still has been okay. And then you just look at everybody else just been stepping up and really communicating and really playing hard and doing the best they can to help this team out. Even though this team has been falling a little bit, they still have been 6-4 out of their last 10, and they won their last two. So this team looks, a lot better than what a lot of people thought. But we have to see if they can continue to do it for an entire season. Other than that, they have been pretty good. The Bucks got off to a rocky start, mainly because Giannis was out, Middleton was out, Holiday was out, Lopez was out, and they didn't really have enough to really compete at the NBA level. Now Holiday's back, Middleton's back, and Giannis is still in the MVP superstar conversation. And they have, fixed a lot of those problems because their best players are available. And now they have won 7 in a row and 8-2 in their last 10. And their defense has got better. They have looked more dominant offensively too. And once Brook Lopez comes back, it's going to take him a little while to get back footing, especially defensively, and follow his little stroke because he has some lower body injuries. But he'll be fine. Don't rush him back. They not desperate to need Brook Lopez, and they'll be fine because Giannis can play some 5-2 and give them a lot of that size and mobility and rim protection that he'll offer. Don't really offer the spacing, but he has been better at it this year and have been shooting a lot more. But you also got to look at it. This is the Bucks. We expect them to be good. We expect them to be one of the best teams in the league. And now with this 7-game win streak, they put themselves in home court advantage spot. And I expect them to stay at the top of the East as long as they're healthy. And nobody will be surprised when they do that, like they're doing now. The Bulls have came back to earth. They have had some significant injuries and some significant guys out, and now they're 5-5. Caruso has stepped up. Zach LaVine has been an all-star. DeRozan has really been unleashed, especially with, the guy being injured for the season. Somebody had to step up, and DeRozan really took that and really returned to his ISO, can't stop me, pick apart the defense form. You still want them to have a little bit more help. Still want them to have a little bit more depth if they want to be known as a serious team in the East. But they have been respectable. People looked at the Bulls as a borderline playoff team, and they have been a playoff team all season so far. Now their schedule has got a little bit more difficult, and you see a 5-5 split right now. But at the same time, it's a long season. We'll see if they be able to get a little bit more healthier. We'll see if they can continue to ride high, and we'll see if they can be able to maintain being a solid team. They have shown it so far this entire season, and they have been pretty decent. But 5-5 is not good for an elite team, especially when this team has really looked pretty good this year. But like I said, injuries and guys missing is a big reason of that, and they still do have a depth problem. I think they need to make another move to shore up that bench a little bit more, especially with some guys being out, if they want to be known as a contender in the East. They're going to be a good team. We've seen that. We knew that that could be happening. Nobody's really blown away by that besides DeRozan playing at the level he's playing. But they still need to make that bench a little bit better. Maybe some buyouts, maybe a trade can shore up that bench, give them some wing depth, give them a little bit more of a defensive guy on that bench. Maybe one or two more pieces can make them into a legitimate team in this East. If DeMar LaVine and Vucevic can click, this team could be dangerous. They're not there yet, but we respect them a lot more. This was a team that you were sure of or you had doubts about. And right now they have been pretty decent, and we'll see if they can finish out the season like this. The Hornets are about where I thought they'd be at the bottom of the playoff picture. They have still had inconsistency. Guys can't shoot, can't do it consistently, but they play hard. They trust their system. They trust each other. They love playing with each other, and they just find ways to compete, and that's all they got. Hustle, effort, energy, and just plays extremely hard and really tries to do whatever they can to win. That's something that I respected them before they had LaMelo. That was something that I respected before they started putting a lot of these pieces around them, just because it all starts with the culture and the coach and what they were trying to do with the talent they already had. And they have put the right pieces around them so far to be competitive. They're still not a championship team or elite team in the East, but they put in the right pieces to be able to do that in the future. So I thought they'd be good this year. I'm not surprised that they're good because I had them in the playoffs. The Knicks have been a little disappointed. They're 5-5 too. They had a chance to be in that top five in the Eastern Conference, and they still do. They above 500 by a couple games. Their defense has not been as dominant as you would want it to be. Their offense has become a little predictable and a little bit exploitable. And they have been a little bit exposed. Now they got to add some things new, do some things a little different to switch it up, add a little bit of razzle dazzle to what they're trying to do, so that way they can get back into that top five in the East. But this team is flawed, and this team do have inherent problems like we've seen with the other teams above them. But I didn't think the Knicks was going to be a legitimate team that can win a title, and they just was be a playoff team in the East. But they still have a chance to, get back to that top five in the East. We'll just see if they're able to do it because they have been healthy for the majority of the season. They just haven't been dominant or great, but I didn't expect them to be. I expect them to be about where they at. I feel like they can finish a little higher. They still, like I said, do need another piece to be serious in the East, and I just don't see that available right now. This team still look like a team that can make it out of the first round, and that's it. But that's what I expected them to be, and that's what they have been so far. Atlanta Hawks haven't been the world beaters that they was last year. They added Nate McMillan last year and took the NBA by storm. They brought back a lot of the same pieces, and they have a lot of the same problems. The only difference is teams are prepared, teams know what they're trying to do, and their duo hasn't been dominant. Trae Young has played better. John Collins hasn't played at that all-star level that he was getting paid to be. And a lot of their role players haven't stepped up and played hard and really played their best basketball like we seen last year, even in the playoffs. And this team really has suffered because of that. They have been a solid NBA team, but most people expected them to be better, and they just haven't been that offensively or defensively. If you're not going to be elite on those categories, you're going to be average. And average means you're going to be at the bottom of the East or just at the bottom of the playoff picture. And that's about where they have been all season. The Cleveland Cavaliers, people thought they were surprised, but it's a long season. You can get off to a hot start, and this team does it, especially the last 2 seasons, but then they kind of iron out and just become average to bad. So this team has some solid players. They have improved their roster. They have gotten better. Guys like Colin Sexton will be out for the entire season, and he's probably their best offensive player, but he's no longer available. So they're going to have to find guys that's going to be able to step up, play harder, do more in his absence because he won't be returning. And his team will suffer because of it because they don't have a legitimate replacement. And I don't know if this team should be aiming for the playoffs anyway because they're not a playoff team to me. They don't have enough talent, and I don't even believe they can win enough play-in games to solidify a spot. But they have made enormous improvements and have looked better than they did last season. But at the same time, they're ninth. That's not a playoff spot. So this year, you rather get a high lottery pick than a middle lottery pick. And that's where they at right now. But I don't know if you really should be happy about that. Cleveland, as you still do lack a superstar, and the best way to get one is getting a high lottery pick instead of one in the mid. But that's just the truth. The Boston Celtics have been up and down. One minute they look like they got it all figured out. Next minute they look like they're a mess. You really don't know what they are, what they're going to be. Their defense hasn't been there. Their offense hasn't been there. They haven't played together. They haven't played as a team. Guys are getting their numbers. Guys are doing whatever they want to do. Guys are taking their shots, passing the ball, choosing not to pass the ball, choosing when they want to play hard, choosing when they want to make a run. But they haven't played consistent. They haven't played smart. They haven't played team basketball. And this team is probably one of the most disappointing teams like the Atlanta Hawks. The only difference is the Hawks don't have as many personality problems as this, Knicks, as the Celtics team do. And that's something that you just got to figure. I'm a guy that feels like this team is probably going to be a playoff team, but this team doesn't need to be broken up. What's the point of keep bringing the same guys in to get the same results? You want to have better results. You want to improve. You want to be better than you was last year. And this team is about where they was last year. A team that most likely will make the playoffs, but most likely won't do much. And this team should be way better than that when you look at the talent, you look at the star power that they have. But when you have a bunch of talent, it works. But it also doesn't mean it's going to be successful. And that's what this team has embodied this year. Same with the Sixers. Joel Embiid comes back. He drops a monster game. They still lose. One minute they look like they don't need Ben Simmons. The next minute is why they don't trade him so they can get somebody that can help them now. Tyrese Maxey has had a solid run, but it's going to end. You got Tobias, hasn't really looked his best like he usually does under Doc Rivers. Then you have Curry. He has played his best basketball. Joel Embiid has been in and out. He's going to miss 10, 15, 20 games. He's already on pace to do that already this season. The problem is he's the only superstar that they have now. And if he's missing games, that's just a world of trouble. They went from being at the top of the East to now they're not even in the playoff picture as they're 10-10, and that's just not a good look. That's a failure of a season. People looked at the Sixers as a legitimate team in this East, and they looked like that before. Now they just look like another team in the East. I had them missing the playoffs, and if they playing like this, they will. And if they can play a little bit better, maybe they're a borderline playoff team. But is that really your expectations? No, because people thought they'd be good this year, and this team is a mystery. They look like they have enough to be playoff, but that's not enough. You want to be more than just a playoff team in the first round exit. That's why I look at the Hawks as disappointing. That's why I look at the Celtics as disappointing, and I also look at the Sixers in that same category, honestly. The Raptors are about what I thought. They'll be competitive. They have size. They have talent. They have a coach that's going to try and do whatever he can to help his team and get them the best, games and play that they can do. But ultimately, they just don't have enough. They're going to defend. They're going to play hard. They're going to do whatever they can to stay in games and win games. But like I said, they just lack superstar. They lack offense. They lack talent. They lack creation. And they just don't have none of it, really. They got a lot of solid players, a lot of guys that try their hardest, try to compete, and really can do specific things. but that's all they have. And this is what you have when you have a roster like that, a roster that's bad to mediocre, and that's what they have been the last 2 seasons, and that's what I thought they would be right now, and that's what I predicted they was going to be at. In the Pacers, no TJ Warren. They missing a lot of offense. Guys have stepped up. Guys have did all they could, but they ultimately don't have enough. Their offense is a little predictable. They're a little easy to defend, and they just don't have enough creation, don't have enough shooting, don't have enough guys that can take over games. And when you don't have that, you have a mediocre basketball team. And that's what you see with the Pacers. They had a coaching upgrade to a lot of people, but they didn't have a talent upgrade. And that has been a big problem with this team the last 2 seasons. This is a team that was good enough to be in the playing conversation, but not good enough to be a lock in the playoffs. And that's what we're seeing right now as they're 9-13. They just can't get it together. They just can't go on a run, and they just can't be, a great team because they just don't have great talent. Unfortunately, this is what I expected, and this is where they at right now. Maybe they can make a move, they can make maybe somebody helps them out or something. But this team is going to be around, that playing range all season, and that's what they'd be about. And the Pistons, I feel like they'd be one of the worst teams in the league, and they have been. They have lost 5 in a row. They have stayed in some games. They have made games competitively. Cade Cunningham hasn't shot the ball well. I haven't been super efficient, but he has been a passer, a rebounder, a solid defender for them. They're definitely an upgrade for what they had last year. Killian Hayes doesn't look good. Jeremy Grant looks solid, but not great defensively or offensively. A lot of the other guys are solid role players that can contribute, but not elite or great role players at this point of their careers, but they're young. So you expect that for guys that have been in the league 2 to 3 seasons at the max. So they're going to be bad offensively. They're going to be bad defensively, but they're going to be out there playing basketball and trying to win. And that's all they can really do. And that's all they can do when they're 4-15, because that's what I expected them to be, one of the worst teams in the league. And I feel like the worst team in the East will be the Orlando Magic, and they are. They're 4-17. They lost 6 in a row. Don't have a lot of weapons, don't have a lot of shooting, don't have a lot of scoring, don't have a lot of defense, and just have a bunch of guys that's trying to figure out what they are, who they are, and what they're trying to be in this league. But that's understandable. A lot of these guys haven't even played 5 years in the league, and you got a lot of veterans that won't even be on this team by the end of the season because they have other things they can be doing with their career besides putting up numbers on a team that's doing nothing but losing as they're 4-17. Thought this team would be worse, just like the Pistons in the league, and they have been the 2 worst teams in the East, like I thought. And that's about what I expected for this team to be. And that's what they have been so far. The Golden State Warriors have been on the visions. They won 7 in a row. Steph Curry has put himself in the MVP conversation in the league again, as they hold the best record, 18-2. Defense has looked good. The offense has still been sparky. And guys have really stepped up. They have communicated. They defend well. They play well. They understand each other. They play well with each other. And ultimately, this is team basketball at his best. And that's why the Warriors have succeeded this year. Even though they have had a fairly easy schedule, you still have to play those games. You're still supposed to win those games. And that's how you should approach it. And that's what they have done. And they have really, beat anybody that has came at their head besides 2 teams. And they have really looked impressive. I give them credit. They have looked better. I still don't look at them as a contender. I still don't look at them as the best team in the West. Like I said, they took advantage of a fairly easy schedule, but they did what they were supposed to do: compete and beat the games and win the teams you're supposed to beat. And I got to give them credit on that. But other than that, the Suns have done the same. They got off to a rocky start. I didn't worry about it. Didn't go crazy about it. I said they'd be fine. Next thing you know, they win 16 in a row, the biggest win streak of this year, and now they're 17-3. This team is elite. This is the best team in the Western Conference to me. Have solid players, have good guards, have good bigs, have good depth, and just have guys that understand, play together, play their roles, and can take over and kill games. Phoenix Suns are amazing. I expected this team to be great. I expected this team to be 1 or 2 in the West coming into the season. They're 2 right now. So I'm not really surprised because that's what I thought they would be at, and that's where they're at right now. So I'm not really surprised about this team. Even when they was losing in the beginning, I didn't panic, didn't go crazy. And I don't look as crazy because my prediction has been spot on right now about the Phoenix Suns. The Utah Jazz have been good. They're 6-4. They're 13-7. We expect them to be all reliable. They have a good system, have a good coach, have the same players, have good guys, have a decent, solid bench, and they defend. And this team has a winning formula. They've been in the playoffs for a couple years. They have kept everything true these couple years, and that's why they just continue to win. They haven't really changed or did much different. Same with the Suns, and that's why they consistently to win. and I'm not really surprised about them. The Dallas Mavericks, I had them about this range, so they're 10-8. They haven't looked that great because Luka went down for a couple games, and they still have a above 500 record. Porzingis have looked pretty good this year. Luka has looked like Luka, rebounding, passing, scoring, controlling games. Their role players have been solid because they know their game, they know their role, they know what they can do, and they have continually to trust that system just like they did on the Rick Carlisle. They doing a little bit things different. They offense and defensive schemes have changed a little bit, but they still have been at heart identical team, and that's why they have basically the same spot in record as they did last year. And the Clippers, they're 11-9. They haven't been amazing. They haven't been great, but Ty Lue was going to go out there and do the best he got with the talent that he has available. Paul George, we all know he's one of the best players in the league. He was All NBA last year. I voted him as an All NBA player last year, and his play hasn't surprised me. I always looked at Paul George as a great player in this league. He's not a top 10 player or nothing like that, but we all respect him at that same level, and he has pretty much been that. He has been one of the best players on a team that need him to be solid. He has been a solid player for multiple seasons. Like I said, he was All NBA last year. He was an All Star last year. He has more shots, more opportunities, so his numbers going to be a little bit better compared to last year because of those reasons. And his team has solid guys that play the game. At the end of the day, you have a bunch of veterans that are what they are and they understand what they need to do. And they just go out there and do that for this team. But they haven't been amazing. They haven't been great. I don't think they're a lock for the playoffs, to be honest. But they have been competitive and did whatever they could do. And you got to respect them for that. The Blazers, I had them around the range that they had. I actually had them at 6 when I made my predictions, and they have been okay. Their offense hasn't been great. Their defense hasn't been great. Damian Lillard hasn't been great. CJ has been the CJ that he has been. And the role players have fit what they have tried to do. And they look about the same, even with a new coach, even with a different type of scheme and different type of play. They look about a middle to decent team. And that's what I thought they'd be. The Minnesota Timberwolves, they 10-10, not amazing, not great. They still have some roster issues. They have some fit issues. They have consistency issues. They have defensive issues. But they're going to be a team that you got to come beat because they have guys that can really come at you. D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards, Towns, they can all have big games, and that's why you got to prepare for them. But this is a borderline playoff team. That's where I thought they would be. They've been that all season. 1 minute in the playoffs, 1 minute they not. I thought they'd be around that, a playing type of team, and that's what they are about this season. And the Lakers have been one of the biggest disappointments. They haven't been able to figure things out. They haven't been able to get guys on the court. LeBron has looked solid. AD has looked solid. Russ has looked great. Then he looks terrible. Then he looks okay. But that's not what you need. You have 3 of the highest paid players in the league, all at all-star levels. The last couple seasons, all have made the playoffs the last couple seasons. You expect more than a below 500 record. They're 10-11 right now. They have a chance to be 11-11 by the time this video goes up, but you expect more than that. LeBron has missed games. AD has finally missed a game, and Russ has been what Russ has been. But you expect more from veterans. You expect more. So this team needs to play better. They don't look great defensively. They look lost offensively. And sometimes I don't even know what they're doing. This team is very confusing. This team could be hard to watch. This team is just not playing great basketball, to be honest. And you just expect more from this team. But their guys haven't all been on the court. They haven't played a lot of together with their big 3. So we still got to see what they can be at the end of the day before we judge them. But at the same time, I'm not having too much hope in them because this is what they have been the last couple months so far. And the Grizzlies have been about what I thought at the bottom of the West in the playoff picture. They probably would take Minnesota's spot and be that 7th or 8th spot. That's where I had them at the end of the day, and they have been about that. They haven't been amazing. They haven't been great. They haven't really, been dominant. But I didn't expect them to be anyway. I expect them to be one of them okay to solid teams in the Western Conference. And that's what they have been. When you have one guy that can score and a lot of guys that haven't stepped up or a lot of guys that can't do it consistently or a lot of guys that can't take over games besides John Morant, you're going to have a mediocre team. And especially when you're not going to defend at an elite level and you can't score at an elite level, you're not really hanging your hat on much. But you have a lot of young guys on this team, and you have a lot of guys that, know their game. But at the same time, this team don't have a high ceiling. They have a team that can compete and can be decent, but not a championship or one of the best teams in the Western Conference, but they're respectable. And that's why I had them at this range that they have been at all season because they're solid. They're not great, they're not amazing, they're just solid. The Denver Nuggets have fell out. No Jokic, no Porter, no Murray, just Aaron Gordon. And they should be a playoff team. We knew that when they had those guys, they was a playoff team. They was top four all season. But when your best players ain't playing and they all out, this is what happens. You out of the playoffs and you lose 6 in a row. So Denver is a playoff team when their guys are healthy. Their guys are not healthy and their guys are not out there. And that's why they have failed from being a playoff team all season to a team that has been mediocre. So this team has been sad, and this team is pretty much okay. They'll be fine once they get Jokic back. They'll be solid, but this team isn't gonna win a title this year, and we just don't know when Jamal Murray's gonna come back. And on top of that, what will he be missing a year of basketball, not playing competitively? There's a lot of pressure on him, but I don't really think they're gonna do much until they can get everybody back healthy, and then we can judge them, but it won't be this season. The Kings have been what we have thought. They'll be competitive, they'll be entertaining, they'll lose games, they'll compete in games, they'll stay in games, and they'll just have a chance to do that every single game, and they'll be this that. The Thunder have been okay. They compete, they do whatever they can, just don't have enough spacing, don't have enough shooting, don't have enough size, don't have enough bigs, don't have enough of talent in general. But they have did what they have could with the talent that they got, and they have been, a team that tries, and that's all you can really want from a team that's young. The Spurs have been a team that's young, but they have some veterans. They have Greg Popovich, but that's not enough in this league. A coach isn't enough to get you to where you got to be because we've seen that last couple seasons they haven't been in the playoffs the last couple years. Then they lost more talent, and now they've been at the bottom of the West this year, which is about where I expected them to be. So I'm not that surprised that the Spurs are one of the worst teams in the league. That's where I predicted them. The Pelicans have been bad. No Zion. Guys been in and out. A lot of young guys that can't really do much or score or defend. Don't play together. Zion will help getting a guy that can get you 20-some points a game, a guy that can dominate a game, and adding them to this team would just help him. But it's still going to be bad. He doesn't defend. He doesn't really take over games consistently. And even when he does, he gives up points too, so it equals out. So this team will be bad with or without Zion, and that's what I expected them to be. They'll be a little bit better with Zion, but they still won't be a playoff team as they have had Zion the last 2 seasons, and they haven't been a playoff team. So I expect them to be around the same because their talent hasn't got better. If anything, this Pelican teams has got worse this season. And that's why I expected them to be at the bottom, which they have been all season. And then the Rockets, I expected them to be terrible. And I'm not really surprised that they're terrible, honestly. They don't really have no spacing, no shooting, nothing. This team can't defend, can't score, can't create shots, can't set up shots. You just got a bunch of guys going out there grabbing the ball, trying to do something, and that's a recipe for losing. Once you start losing, this is what happens. Guys get frustrated, guys get angry, guys get disappointed, guys get booed, guys get hated, guys get turned on, and you're just going to start seeing it more and more as the season. This team has just finally won 2 games in a row. They only still won 3 games this entire season, and that's the worst in the entire NBA. This team has been terrible all season. Absolutely embarrassing and just absolutely terrible. But I thought they'd be terrible. I didn't think they'd be good. And I'm not really surprised. Jalen Green has did all he could. Not strong enough. Don't have the shooting touch. Don't have the consistency. Don't have the knowledge and the IQ and the body to be prepared to be a dominant NBA player. But I didn't think Jalen Green was going to come in here and be dominant. I thought he'd be solid. He has been respectable, for a 19-year-old rookie that still got to, upgrade a lot of stuff. But he a rookie. I didn't expect him to come in and average 40. I didn't expect him to come in and average 30. He gonna score a lot, take a lot of shots, have a lot of opportunity, but that's why he's still been a solid team scorer. Other than that, this is the NBA. This is the game we love. This is the game we continue to watch. Still been a little bit of a disappointing season. Most teams have been about where I thought that they would be. Some teams have been a little bit more injured. Some teams battled adversity. Some teams got off to a hot start and cooled down. Some teams became middle to where they should be, and some teams just can't stay healthy, or they was got injured at the wrong times. But it's 82 games. It's 82 games. It's a long season. There's a lot of basketball still left to be played, and we'll just see where these teams finish. We'll see what happens. Trades happen. Sign and trade. I'm not signing trade. Waves happen. Obviously, you have the trade deadline that still ain't happened yet because we ain't in December yet or February. And then you still have the buyout guys. I mean, that's coming up that can change some teams and help some teams out. So to me, we'll see what happens. We'll see what goes on. But I've been pretty much right this season. Been wrong on a couple things, but not much. But then again, the season not over. So we'll see how these teams finish. But some of these teams, you got to give them credit. Some of these teams you're a little disappointed in. Some of these guys you're a little disappointed in. Some of these duos we're disappointed in. Some teams you just thought would be a lot better than what they have shown. And it's just unfortunate, but it's part of the game. You don't know. That's why you make a prediction, and it's just for fun. But, I ain't really tripping off mine. I like my prediction so far, and the season's not even over yet. So I ain't really tripping about mine. But see y'all later. Had to hit y'all up with something, give y'all some analysis, give y'all some game that I know, and what I've been seeing, what I've been watching. Other than that, keep hooping, keep doing y'all things. Hoopers, what's up with y'all? Quinn Wade, Basketball Analysis signing out. See y'all later. Hear from y'all again.